The deadly conflict in Gaza is highlighting division within the Democratic Party. As the civilian death toll rises, calls for a ceasefire grow. But some see those calls conflicting with Israel's fight to defend itself after the October 7th attacks. The top Democrats in the U.S. Senate primary have clashed over this ceasefire issue. I asked them about their differing positions. If you were sitting with President Biden in the Oval Office now, what would you recommend he do about the civilian death toll in Gaza and the risk of wider war in the Middle East?
My opponent says that Israel should keep bombing. I have called for a ceasefire on this station over 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I'll continue to do that. It's a very short-sighted view to say that Israel can go on and keep bombing. The fact is, Israel and the Middle East is a powder keg, and you have to understand Lebanon, you have to understand Yemen, and you have to understand Iran. And you have to understand that this is World War III if we don't stop it. Benjamin Netanyahu is not Yitzhak Rabin. He's never wanted peace, ever. We must have peace in the Middle East, and this president must exhaust himself to do that. We must not give more aid to Israel unless they show us a plan for immediate peace on how we're going to stop this madness. You know, killing 30,000 people doesn't bring justice to those 1,200. And you should still be able to go in a police-like manner and hunt those people down. But you shouldn't bomb women and children with impunity like they have done over and over again for the last 4 months.
If you were sitting in the Oval Office right now with President Biden, what would you recommend he do about the civilian death toll in Gaza and the risk of wider war in the Middle East?
Well, I think the President and the Secretary of State are working very hard right now to try and find a solution that leads to a ceasefire of some kind in exchange for the release of hostages and an agreement that leaves Hamas no longer in a position to be able to conduct an attack like they did on October 7th. But I am, like everyone, heartbroken about when you see civilian casualties in Gaza, just as I was heartbroken about what happened to the Israeli people on October 7th, which was the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And we have to find, I think, as our role as the United States is to help shape what comes next, both in Gaza and for a potential Palestinian state. And that, to me, has to be the end goal, that we have a peaceful and independent Palestinian state next to a safe, secure, stable, democratic and Jewish state in Israel. That, to me, has to be the end state that we try to work towards.
You know, there is a lot of concern about the state of democracy, and many people of all political beliefs think that the country is on the wrong path, and our elected leaders get a lot of that blame. To any Texan watching, why are you the candidate that they should put their trust in?
Well, I'm not a career politician. I'm a former NFL linebacker and a lawyer and somebody who's a fourth-generation Texan, and I think I know who we are. We're not who Ted Cruz says we are. We're not as divided as he makes us out to be. We're not as divided as you see on cable news at night. That's not the Texas that I know. The Texas that I know is one that helped a kid who was raised by a single mom chase his version of the American dream, going to my local YMCA, relying on my teachers and my coaches. We are a state that can come together and do incredibly big things. But we have to have leadership in place that understands that and tries to nurture that, not that tries to pit us against each other. And unfortunately, Ted Cruz has been doing that for 12 years, and we can't afford 6 more years of it. So I'm asking for folks' support, asking for your vote, and I want to serve you in the United States Senate.
Right now, there is a lot of concern about the state of our democracy. Many people of all political beliefs think the country is on the wrong path, and our elected leaders get a lot of that blame. To any Texan watching, why are you the candidate that they should vote for and put their trust in you?
I think people are frustrated. They're so frustrated. I ran into a woman named Antonia Molina in Harlingen. She's in her 70s, living on $760 a month in Social Security. How in the world are she supposed to make ends meet with that? It's an impossibility. You have people that are frustrated trying to figure out how they're going to send their kids off to college, how they're just going to pay the out-of-pocket medical bills. You know, all of those frustrations are not answered by anybody in Congress. You've got Washington politicians that just want to stay there and go to the steak dinner with the lobbyists. You know, I'm 53 years old. I'm not 42 like my opponent. This isn't ambition for me. We've got to change this world. We've got to do something better for my kids and everyone's kids out there. This isn't about personal gain. It has to be about how we are going to change this state and this country for the good of all. And I believe I've done that.
There's much more to my conversations with the candidates. We posted the complete interviews online, and you can hear their ideas for ensuring access to health care and abortion, along with their thoughts on term limits and legislation affecting the state's electric grid. You can find those interviews now in the State of Texas section of our website. You've heard from the top Democrats. Now hear from the man they're trying to defeat in the race for Senate. Senator Ted Cruz gives insight into his ideas on gun violence and the border, next on State of Texas.